Welcome to Jikoni Magic. Today we are making Moroccan inspired chapatis. They are crispy on the outside, full of layers that are light, airy and soft. And the ingredients that I used were 150 grams all-purpose flour, 150 grams whole wheat flour, 200 grams of semolina flour, 2 teaspoons of instant yeast, followed by an optional pinch of sugar that helps in caramelization and good color formation on your chapatis once they cook. I mixed everything together before adding salt to taste and a pinch of dry sage leaves. Use these sage leaves in moderation because dry herbs have a very intense flavor. You can also leave them out if you don't like sage leaves. Then I mixed everything up together, made sure that everything was well incorporated, and these are the other ingredients that I used. 60 grams of unsalted butter mixed with 50 grams of sunflower oil. It's important to use unsalted butter because if you use salted butter, you're going to throw your salt measurements off. The chapatis might be too salty. And so I set that aside. And let me show you also, I started off with 800 ml of lukewarm water, and reason I did this is I wanted to show you how much water I would have used at the end of the dough kneading process. And so I started mixing my flour and water to make the chapati dough. I added just a bit of water at a time, not too much, because I didn't want to end up with a very wet dough. And another tip that I want to share with you is that once you've mixed just a small portion of your flour with water, pinch off that dough that you formed there. Taste it. Now this will give you an indication of how well your seasoning is balanced. You will be able to tell if your salt or your sugar is too much or too little. If you find that your sugar is too much or that your salt is too much, then add a bit more flour so that you can dilute the concentration of the sugar or the salt. If, on the other hand, your sugar or salt is not enough, add just a bit more at this point. It's easier to add at this point before you've mixed all your flour with the water to form the dough than at the end of it when you taste and find that the salt content is not enough. At least according to my opinion, that's how I do it. And so after tasting, I was satisfied with my seasoning, the way it was balanced, and I proceeded to just basically add the water in small portions like I told you and kneading until all the dough came together. And so at the end of it, I was satisfied with how my dough came out. I always like having my dough slightly on the sticky side because this is what gives me the best chapati results. But just play with the balance of how you like your dough coming out. And before proceeding with the rest of the steps, I wanted to show you the water that was remaining, 500 ml, meaning I only used 300 ml of lukewarm water to mix my dough. Now be very careful as you follow my recipe because different flours have different formulations and they have different moisture contents. So use 300 ml as a rough guideline. You might end up using more, you might end up using less. And so I turned over my dough onto my work surface, applied some oil on my hands and on the dough itself. This will help the dough not to stick on your hands and on the work surface as you're kneading. So knead by pinching and pulling. This method works for me. And kneading is also very important because it helps in the development of the gluten. This is 10 minutes later. Notice how the flour has become soft and pliable. And it's also quite elastic. If you don't do this, then it means that your chapatis will not come out as soft as they should. I recommend that you knead for at least 7 to 10 minutes. So at this point my dough was ready. And here is my oil and butter mixture that I put in the microwave for 15 seconds on very high heat for the butter to melt. And so right now I'm mixing it. And I'm going to use it when working and portioning out my dough. So first I started by oiling my work surface and the dough itself. And then proceeded to divide my dough. This dough gave me 10 balls that were on average between 80 to 90 grams. Another tip, if you do not have a weighing scale in your kitchen, what you can do is take 2 balls of dough, each in a separate hand, and press them like you'd press a stress ball. This will give you an indication of which ball will be bigger or smaller than the other. If one is too big, just pinch off the excess dough and add on to the other dough. In this way, you'll end up with 10 balls of dough that are of approximate same size. Your hands are very good tools in the kitchen, so use them. And so here are my balls of dough, 10 like I told you, each between 80 to 90 grams. I coated them very well with oil, covered them in plastic wrap, and allowed them to rest for 30 minutes. And so this is after 30 minutes. You can see that my balls of dough have risen slightly and they are spongy to the touch, and they are also very soft and can be easily stretched. And so now we're going to spread the dough on our work surface. Oil the work surface and oil the dough itself. And before we proceed, let me also point out that we're going to use semolina flour to sprinkle in between our layers as we fold them. Alright, so let's proceed. This is how I spread my chapati dough. I think the video is self-explanatory, so just follow what I did, but make sure that you oil your hands as you go on because it makes it easier to spread the chapati. You can use a rolling pin to make sure that your chapati dough comes out as thin as it possibly can, or on the other hand, you can stretch it out like I'm doing here in this video. The aim is to stretch it as thin as possible. If you stretch it like I am and you end up with a few tears here and there, it's okay, it's not a big deal. Once you're satisfied that it's as thin as it can possibly be, without tearing too much, start by applying the mixture of oil and butter, followed by a light sprinkling of the semolina flour. You can use your fingers to sprinkle it if controlling the spoon is going to be hard. This will help you moderate the amount of semolina flour that you're going to sprinkle on your layers. And then fold one side and apply your oil and butter mixture, followed by the semolina flour, and fold. Repeat the process. Oil and butter followed by semolina flour, and fold. Same process again. Oil and butter, semolina flour, and then fold. Now you can decide to leave it at this point okay, which is perfectly fine. But since I am in love with layers in my chapatis, I went for the second layer. Just watch what it is that I'm going to do. Come and put your first chapati that you formed smack in the middle of the one that you've just oiled and applied semolina flour to, and repeat the same process. Now you're going to have 2 chapatis in one. Imagine the number of layers that you're going to have. You will see these layers once I'm done with making these chapatis. The chapatis are to die for, trust you me. Fantastic stuff right there. And there. So if you find that making the square chapatis is hard for you, I'm going to show you some 2 methods that you can use to make the conventional chapatis that we know. So this is the second style that you can use to make your chapatis. And this is the third method that you can use. Remember, apply oil and butter followed by semolina and then make your layers. And so now let's spread out the chapatis. Gently press and spread out the chapatis, starting right from the middle and pushing outwards. And do not forget the corners of your chapati. So start from the middle and press outwards so that you do not leave too much flour in the center. And once you get to the edges or the corners, make sure that you flatten them down as well. And as you're spreading your chapati, make sure that your pan is already heating on medium to low heat. Place your chapati on your preheated pan, and every 30 to 40 seconds, please make sure that you come and turn over your chapati. This will allow the inside to cook evenly as you keep turning it frequently. The moderate to low heat also allows the outer layer to crisp up properly. And as time goes by, you're also going to notice that your chapati becomes sort of hollow and that air pockets begin to develop. As you can see, this means that the different layers have started separating and cooking. So cooking the chapati will take you 3 minutes on each side, so that's like 6 to 7 minutes in total of cooking the chapati. As you can see now, the layers have really separated, right? And also notice the caramelization that has taken place on the chapati. The formation of this beautiful golden brown color is as a result of the sugar that we added in the initial stages as we were kneading our dough. And so at this point, it's when you will now come and apply your butter and oil mixture to the chapati, and it will basically be done. Then take it off the heat. Now let me show you how the chapatis turned out. This is the 2-in-1 chapati. Notice how the layers are so many. It's almost like you're reading a book. They are light, they are fluffy, they are soft. And the outside is very, very crispy. And this is the one chapati. Once it cooks, the layers will open up, and you'll also end up with this pocket inside it that you can also be very creative in serving. You can put some meatballs inside or whichever stuffing you like and serve them like that. That's an option of getting creative in your kitchen. Thank you for watching this video. Please click on the link that I've provided on the top left side of your screen for more chapati recipes. Otherwise, You can subscribe to my channel as well. Like this video and share it with your friends. Until next time on Jikoni Magic, goodbye.